I know that some people in Egypt have old-fashioned ideas. Old-fashioned ideas based on the assumption that the Nile water belongs to Egypt, and that Egypt has a right to decide as to who gets what of the Nile water, and that the upper riparian countries are unable to use the Nile water because they will be unstable and because they will be poor. These circumstances have changed and changed forever. Ethiopia is not unstable. Ethiopia is still poor, but it is able to cough up the necessary resources to build whatever infrastructure and dams it wants on the Nile waters.
Out of the countries that have signed this agreement so far, you seem to be the architect. 85% of the Nile waters come from Ethiopia. Are you prepared to negotiate further?
Well, I would dispute the characterization.
You would deny that you're pushing it more than most?
No, well, we are not pushing it more than anybody else. Everybody is interested in it, and all of us are agreed that this should go forward. And as far as negotiating further is concerned, we see no reason why Egypt, and I think it's mainly Egypt, Sudan is not a main problem in this regard. I see no reason why Egypt should not come back to the fold.
But let's look at this issue of financing, you say is all Ethiopian, because the European Development Bank is involved in multi-million loans, Italy also.
Not on the Nile.
But through your program of 5 hydroelectric dams involves funding from these countries.
Not on the Nile.
Yes, but that nevertheless, whether it's on the Nile or not, if Egypt lobbies hard and you get into if this escalates, surely that funding could come into doubt.
Egypt will not be able to stop Ethiopia from building dams on the Nile. That is history. And that is not going to be part of the solution.
With respect, are you not underestimating Egypt's ability to sway international donors?
No, I never underestimate that. What I am suggesting that we are beyond that Ethiopia is able and willing to use its own resources to build dams on the Nile. That is not the way forward. The way forward is not for Egypt to try and stop the unstoppable. The way forward is to seek a win-win solution through diplomatic efforts.
If, as could be the case, foreign donors do start withdrawing support for your other projects, that will obviously escalate the situation. How far will you go with this?
There is nothing more we can do than what we are already doing, which is to continue to develop our resources, including the Nile water resources. We are aware of such risk, and our next 5-year plan does not depend on money from the international institutions or Western donors to build dams. It is primarily dependent on our own capacity.
And I assume did you dismiss the claims that you have software that jams certain websites, that you have surveillance techniques, bugging going on in a much bigger way than most African states? Do you deny that?
We jam propaganda campaigns, hostile propaganda campaigns, such as VOA.
You describe the VOA's Amharic service
as a hostile propaganda.
Hostile propaganda?
Yeah.
And you would let anybody investigate, would you? You would let anybody come in to investigate independently, thoroughly, without restricting them?
There are internationally accepted norms in that regard, which do not violate sovereignty of nations. The United Nations has such right. On the basis of bilateral understanding, we have offered to the United States, for example, to jointly investigate cases of human rights violations that they routinely report on the basis of allegations. They seem to have accepted that in principle, but we have yet to see it in practice.